Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to do video 3 of a short series that I'm putting together on OAuth 2 and the Google APIs. It was originally going to be 3 in the series, but as we've gone on we've developed more and more stuff, so it's going to be pretty open-ended now. I can't think of any more than 2 or 3 more, and then we'll have a really good picture of the Google APIs. Video 1 was about setting up the project, actually telling Google that we want to have an application. And the second one was how to get the tokens to access the APIs. So that was all basic stuff we needed. So this video was going to be about how to use the Drive API, but I thought we'll actually have a slight diversion and talk about APIs in general within Google and how it all works, really their whole ecosystem. They have a thing called a discovery document, which is very similar to things like OpenAPI definitions. So it used to be called Swagger. So you're having there a definition of the API, its parameters, how it works, how you call it. They use that file to generate APIs. Not all the APIs, I believe, but some of the APIs, and also their API Explorer, which you will see often with things like Swagger, OpenAPI. People will generate a screen so you can try out the APIs. Now, it's around about 15 years old now. Well, 13 years old, 2011. They haven't really moved on from there, but they do use it. Seems that that's their preferred technique. This article is is their initial release of it. It's an hour's worth of very good video. It shows how they've generated a very simple SDK, Python SDK, from the discovery document, and it's did about 30 lines or something. It's not an entire SDK, but it shows the power of how it works. So that's a good video to watch, really, and I'll put that link in there, but you can probably see that anywhere. So when we initially start using the APIs, it operates on the story. The discovery works on 2 levels. One is the initial discovery document, which is all the APIs which are in there. This is quite a large document. It's nicely pretty printed. I've extracted what's probably the useful information out, really, give it the names of the APIs. The discovery API, which is where you go to get more data, but we'll have a look at that in 2 or 3 seconds. So if we just have a little bit of a demo, so we'll get rid of that. Where are we? So just using curl in these examples, really. That's the base document. So we'll get that, and that is a very large document. Through there, so it lists all the APIs. There are hundreds of them. And of course, they're all different versions and whatever you can see through that. You have alpha versions, beta versions, but we're rocking up to about 465 APIs that we can actually call. So if you'd want to call the alpha of the web security scanner, you probably can. You might not be allowed to get the tokens now, but it's there fully documented. So if we go back to our little screen there, I mean, we curl the data down, we can actually restrict it to what we want to see. It supports 2 parameters, one of which is preferred and the other one is drive. So if we just take the preferred part, and we'll run a quick curl on there. These are, if you like, the highest versions, or the versions they would like you to use within the environment. You can actually restrict it even further down, as I say, by actually just mentioning the name of the API you want to use. And as we want to use drive, we'll specify that. So we'll say it's preferred equals true and the name equals drive. So this is the data we'll get. It shows all the URLs of where you need to go to. Yeah, so it's drive version 3, and it is the preferred one, so it does give you that value. Now, interesting enough, of all the APIs, one of them doesn't have the documentation link. So I'll just show this just as an example. So it's Android Enterprise, so it is the preferred one, but there's no documentation link. So if you're writing code, you probably will have to deal with that. if you're reading those all in one go. So not a problem really. So once we've boiled that down, and I've just filtered this down to we have the Drive API. So there's 2 and 3 you can use. I think I mentioned in quite a few of the previous videos a few times we're using version 3. It's a very different version. It's very different API from version 2. But I've never used version 2, so I don't have those corruptions, if you like. So within there, I've just extracted the discovery URL. You can go and find that, and where the documentation is on the Google site, and I've extracted the description. Some of these are very, very large. So if we go back to the previous one, we scroll over. Some just go on forever. So there's lots of information within there. Now, when we ran the version here where we did look at the drive, we actually get this is the second level discovery, if you like. So this is the discovery document which tells you about the API. So if we just go back to the third one here, you'll see they're all different. They all have the names there from what they do: AdSense, air quality, interesting, AlloyDB. Never come across that. So we have that. So if we were just to do a quick curl on that, if you just want to get that API, you could just say that. So preferred equals true. Yeah, it's the drive, and the only items you want are, sorry, the only fields we need are the items within discover within items. So you'll see this is a collection called items. All of the APIs, I think I mentioned in the last video, all of the APIs have this standard fields parameter. So we just specify that, so we can really restrict it down to what we want. So there we are. So that's the file that we know that we want, which has all the information in. If you go back to our browser, and I've done a download of that document. So I'll just zoom that up if I can. Yeah, there we go. So here we go. So this is the version. So it's version 1 of that first file we got. So they all talk back to each other. You get all the good information here. Now, I've shown this particularly in this way for a reason. Here's our base URL. That's what we use all the way through. So in the next video, you'll see that we do point to googleapis.com, and we specify drive/v3/ for example files to list the files to do that. Well, when I was doing the initial work for this video, when I was looking at this file, it appeared to have different versions. So if we see it there, so we're discovery version v1, and we refresh the page. In fact, we just do refresh. You can see it actually changes. It's actually the same file, but for some reason it doesn't come back in the same. There we got that original version back. I think when I was playing with it, I got to about 20 iterations before I got bored. I was doing different versions of the file, so that's that's just an interesting to watch for. Now, when we actually look at the internals of the files, that discovery document, wrote a little program here. So again, PHP. Now, one of the interesting things about PHP is you can just give a file. If you've enabled it within the configuration, you can do URL wrappers. So I don't have to use curl in this example. So I can just go straight away, get the file from the internet, decode it into JSON. Well, they're actually arrays, because you can either have classes or arrays. So you say true, and I say it becomes an array. So I've extracted the resources out of there, and the resources that I want are the files, which is the one that we're going to talk about in depth in the next video. So what I did was I capped that output, and here we have all the information that's in the files. So I just want to get this up before we go any further on that, because I just moved the file. So we have that. It's an array of methods. Now these methods correspond to here. So we have copy, for example. So here we have the structure. So it wants a file ID, which is quite the long view you might see. So this is how the SDK works out what needs to happen. It's also very interesting to read, as is the first document. I mean, it's a very boring file to look at, but it has some fantastic information. Very helpful in debugging as well. But sometimes the online documentation is not quite as accurate as you might like. But this is the truth. This is how it all hangs together. So it describes the parameters, the method, of course, post. The majority will guess. We're doing a copy, so we're actually creating a new resource. So we'll do a post. That's why that occurs. So it needs a nice file ID to go in there. Description. When it says path, that's when it goes in the URL itself. There's another one, query, so that's in the query string. So again, it will show when we do the detailed dive on how we use the API, you'll see that. But it is just a query string as you'd see in a normal URL, question mark, then the parameters. There is within there a search, which is Q. So you have some parameter setting you can do in there. You also have Q to say I only want to see folders with the name Fred in it or whatever. So that's how we restrict that. So if you do just scroll through this, you'll see, as I say, we have copy there. And if we just go down, we're just looking at these are all the parameters that you can use in copy. Then eventually when it gets there, these refs, they're pointing back to the schema within this discovery document. So that's how you can understand what the data will come back looking like. I think that's the only place you see a $ref within these files. And of course, the scope is always interesting. These are the scopes you need to actually call that API. So again, if you don't want to go rattling through the documentation online, you can just read it there. And that description, I believe, is probably what you see online in the documentation. So there's our second method, create. So we've done copy, we've done create. Exactly the same things again here. So there's internal array, then we have our post, we go down there. Enforce single parent, yeah, that's gone now. It is version 3, only has one parent. So a file could appear more than once in the structure on a version 2. It's very odd. So we go down, we'll just scroll down all the good stuff here for create. There we go. Yeah. Again, there's the structures, the $refs, there's the scope we need, descriptions. Then we get to delete. I'm showing you this for a reason. Where we skip to empty trash. It's missed download out. For some reason, it's put it at the end. But if we just scroll down through their empty trash, we should get to export. And there we go. Generate IDs. That's another one, another method. Yeah. And then we get down to get, which is the standard again. It's that one there. And then we get to list. There's the list. There we go. Then next one should be list labels. The large one. There we go. Yeah, interesting as well. Some of that parameter order, so you have to provide the parameters in a given way. So again, if you get weird errors coming, have a check of that, see if everything's in the right way, the right order. So we come down past list. There's list labels, which is the next one. So our next one should be modify labels. There's modify labels. The next one is update. There's the last one. Then we get to watch. And we scroll, we get there. There we go, as watch. And then, as promised, when we get there, there's download. So for some reason, it's decided to put that at the bottom. It's not alphabetical order, so I don't really know why it's done that. There's our parameters. You go down, and there's the end of the file. So I just thought I'd just show it as an example piece of code because it's thousands of lines long, that file. But you might want to just extract that and keep that, maybe even print it off so you have that information in front of you. So that's just a little bit of interesting background on the discovery stuff. Might be an interesting exercise to try and convert that discovery into an Open API Swagger file. I will leave that as an exercise to the reader, as it says in a lot of magazines articles. But it might be quite interesting to do. In the next video, we'll see, as we talk about the Drive API, we'll see the API Explorer in action. So just think back to what we did here and how it actually generated that. So I think that's it for this evening, everybody. I hope you enjoyed that. It's a fairly freestanding video, really, and probably not required reading, but on the preferred reading list when you're dealing with the Google APIs. So have a nice evening, everybody, and I'll see you in the next one.